Hello, beautiful people, and happy Aries season transit reading, as well as the collective tarot reading that we will do at the end of the transit overview. If you want to skip ahead to the tarot reading, the timestamp will be in the caption below, but let's just jump right into it. Our Pisces new moon isn't until very late into Pisces season, so that happens March 18th, and I've also made a video on that if you want to check that out. It's just before this one. But because our Pisces new moon is very late in Pisces season, that means we will usher into Aries season with an Aries moon, so that's brilliant. And then we'll have a cardinal moon cycle for our quarter moons and then our full moon as well. So again, we will begin with that Aries moon, and then the first quarter moon in Cancer will be on March 25th at 3:18 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that will happen at 5 degrees Cancer. And then we will have our full moon in Libra. That is the wind moon that we can look forward to on on April Fool's Day. How brilliant is that? I believe, but that station's exact at 10:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at 11 degrees Libra. I think it's so aptly named for our air sign of Libra, ushering us through this full moon during Aries season. So, Aries is about that movement, that forward progress, that going, almost that impulsive action, where Libra, again, is that air sign that is about the collective. It's about bringing people together into harmony. And wind touches everybody, wind touches everything. There's nothing that is exempt from the wind. So, I just think there's a beautiful metaphor in that. But moving along there, our second quarter moon will be in Capricorn on April 10th, which will station exact at 12:52 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So depending where you are in the world, that one might actually be on April 9th. So, make it work for whatever your time zone is. That will be at 20 degrees Capricorn, and then our new moon in Aries, just like our new moon in Pisces, will happen towards the very end of Aries season on April 17th at 27 degrees Aries. So we're beginning Aries season with a cardinal moon as we usher ourselves into this cardinal season. And of course, this is the astrological new year that many of us have been dreaming of since we began this Pisces season, where all of these planets have been going through their parade in Pisces. So we can expect like a spark of inspiration. I've already been feeling it since Neptune, Saturn, and now Venus have already been ushering themselves through Aries, but it's like this spark of life. It's like this breath of fresh air. It's like when you're in a triathlon, you start with the swimming, and you're swimming and you're swimming and you're swimming, and then as soon as you hit the ground, it's like I can breathe again. You have breath control as you're in the water, but you know it's an act of patience and it's an act of perseverance there. But with Aries season, it's less about the patience and less about the perseverance and more about the doing. And that's kind of the energy we'll be moving with. And I believe at one point we will have upwards of 7 planets and asteroids in Aries at the same time, if I remember correctly. So it's not even just that first breath of life. It's not just that spark. It's like all at once we are being engulfed in this energy of like, oh, I've been surrendering to the universe, I've been going with the flow, and now I'm ready to do. I'm ready to put my will into action and get things moving. Come into life because again, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So it's like we're Pisces season, the end of Pisces season, we are in the birthing canal to end the cycle of where we've been before to be birthed out anew into Aries season. So it's like the that breath of life. That's what this Aries season represents. And of course, with everything transitioning, all of the generational planets having almost all moved into their new sign, Uranus will be following very shortly after. I believe it's in Taurus season that Uranus transitions into Gemini. And after Uranus makes that transition, that'll be the final planet that has ushered itself into this new energy. And if you look back into 2025, there was a brief period where all of the generational planets dipped their toes into their sign before they all retrograded back into the sign they were previously, except for Pluto. By that point, Pluto had already been in Aquarius and was staying in Aquarius, which I honestly am been loving this Pluto and Aquarius energy, but that's besides the point. There was a brief period in 2025 when all of those generational planets dipped their toes into the water. So if you are wondering what to expect from this Aries season and from these big, massive planetary transits as we move ahead, look back from, I believe it was like April to July was when all of those planets dipped their toes in and then subsequently made their way back out. If you look at the themes you were moving through, what was giving you inspiration? What gave you that breath of air? What gave you that lease on life, Look into that and look at what you were doing, who you were with, what you were doing it with, how you were inspired. Look at all of the themes of that time to get an idea of what we are moving forward towards and forward to this Aries season. Now, with all of that said, the sun will move into Aries on March 20th at 10:46 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and just a couple hours later, Mercury is going to station direct at 3:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I think is a beautiful omen for what to expect as we move ahead. And of course, that day is the spring equinox. So again, I think Mercury having this like weird synchronistic timing of turning around to go back forward, it's still going to be in Pisces for the time being. But as it turns around and as it moves ahead, it gives us that extra umph, that extra push to go towards what we want to see. But I like as Aries, as the sun moves into Aries, Mercury still is in that Pisces energy because it gives us almost like this dreamy and tapped in awareness. So, if we are moving impulsively and really only thinking about ourselves as we move ahead this Aries season, which I would highly recommend, there's a way you can still be selfish and not be destructive. And that's kind of the themes of this Aries season moving forward. Putting yourself first for the benefit of the all. That's the theme of this Aries season. But with Mercury and a couple of the other planets and placements still being in Pisces, it still taps us into the collective. It still helps us have that empathy we need in order to not be destructive in our impulsivity. So, and I do believe, I don't have it here, but on the day of the new moon in Pisces, which is the 18th, so 2 days before the sun moves into Aries, the moon or Mercury and the North Node will still be very closely conjunct. Will still be very closely conjunct to one another. And then as Mercury turns around, it's going to directly pass over the North Node one more time before it continues forward. So there's this energy. And I talked more about this in depth in my new moon reading. Again, if you want to go check that out, it's on my page. But as Mercury turns around to move back ahead and passes over the North Node again, it's a different energy than we felt with the new moon in Pisces because, again, the sun is now in Aries, the moon is now in Aries. Rather than being submerged under the ocean of the collective unconscious, we are now above air. We are running. We are lit. Our flames are lit now. So, as Mercury passes over the North Node for that second time, it's going to be where we were speaking life over what we want to see grow, speaking death over what we want to see crumble and fall away from us, where that was very like dreamy and more focused on the liminality of it. When it passes over the North Node once again, it's going to be more okay, not only am I speaking life into what I want to see grow, now my words can match my actions. Now I have the drive and the energy behind my words to actually put my feet on the ground and make something happen, to get up and move, to get up and do and be and become. Where again, where it passed over Pisces or where it passed over each other during the Pisces new moon, it was about the word, it was about the vision, it was about the awareness. Where Aries, it's going to take the word, take the vision, take the awareness, and put the action behind it. So I think that's a beautiful energy to be moving with right at the very beginning of Aries season. And again, with Mercury turning around at 333, beautiful omens all around, if you ask me. And 3 is the number of creation in numerology. You have the lone man, and then they find their partner, and then they come together, they copulate, is that the word? They come together and they make 3. They birth something into creation with one another. And that's what the 3 represents. It's the breath of life. It is life itself. It is creation. So, as the sun continues its journey through Aries, it'll pass over first Neptune, making that direct conjunction, and then a couple days later pass over Saturn, where we'll make that direct conjunction. And with Neptune, I love the Saturn and Neptune and Aries energy together because Aries, again, is that go. It's the go. I said go-ness. Anyway, it's what moves us to go. It's that spark of life. It's that inspiration. It's that boots on the ground. We are doing the damn thing. Neptune is our spirituality. It's our disillusionment at times because Neptune as a planet, we can't see Neptune as a planet directly. We see the hundreds of miles of gases and storms and everything else that covers Neptune around it, which is why it represents disillusionment and vision and liminality in that sacred space. But Neptune is also a dissolver. Neptune also, because it represents that disillusionment, it helps us to pierce through the veil of what is not true so we can get to the core essence of what is our truth. And when the sun conjoins Neptune, it almost illuminates that idea of what have I allowing myself to be duped by in a way? And how has being duped, how has being tricked by this energy, how has that helped me gain a sense of wisdom or deeper understanding or clarity through the illusion? So it's like this dissolving of like seeing through the illusion, but also understanding that the illusion had its place to help you understand something. There's some sort of message involving spirituality or understanding that happens in there. And with Neptune in Aries, it's this emphasis of the rising of false deities, false gods, or the crumbling of those false gods, which is why we are seeing what we're seeing in the world right now. The system as it stands was in itself a false god. That's my cat if you heard her. The system as it stands was in itself a false god. Pretty much since the creation of America, and then even long before that. I would bring it back to the Romans and the patriarchy whenever that was lifted up. But when as Neptune moves through Aries, it's this revelation of, oh, this was never true. And if I've been blindly following the system that was not true, how can I now turn that energy around? Put all of the energy I was giving to this system that never cared about me, how can I now nourish myself with my own energy? How can I pierce through the illusion that I have been blinded by in order to bring that energy back to me? And the sun conjunct Neptune at the very beginning of Aries season is going to illuminate what you can do, how you've been tricked, and how you can utilize the way you've been tricked to your advantage. Because the beautiful thing about being tricked, and this is when you work with trickster gods, knowingly or unknowingly, the trickster gods and deities are sent to you because you are meant to learn something. And the only way sometimes we can learn is by doing and by getting tricked. Because especially in school, I would only learn and absorb the information if I did it wrong first. And then somebody said, hey, that's not really right. Let's look at this a different way. That's kind of what the tricksters do. They purposely trip you up so you can learn the wisdom you need to know or earn the rights you need to earn by doing and by falling on your face and by getting tricked, because that's how the wisdom is absorbed sometimes. Sometimes we need to be tricked in order to obtain. And that's what this Sun conjunct Neptune energy is going to represent. It's going to show you in the way where you've been tricked and how that trickery has actually helped you in your becoming and continual becoming. And then you're going to take that energy of the dissolvement, the great illusion of Neptune conjunct the sun. You're going to take that energy of the illumination of awareness. And then when the sun conjoins Saturn just a couple days later on the 25th, March 25th, it'll conjoin Saturn at 4 degrees Aries. And that's going to loosely sextile Pluto, which will be at 5 degrees Aquarius. So there's a great energy here. And that's the same day as the first quarter moon in Cancer. And that's going to happen at 4 degrees Cancer. Fascinating. Fascinating. So the Sun conjunct Saturn is going to almost directly sextile Pluto and then directly square our first quarter moon as it stations exact. Again, 3:18 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on March 25th. So this energy, we had the illumination of awareness come to us, and then a couple days later, all of these aspects are happening. Sun conjunct Saturn takes the illumination of awareness of the wisdom that you have now gained through the trickery, through piercing through the veil of illusion. You're now at the point where Sun is conjoining Saturn, where you're illuminating the ways you can take that awareness, take that wisdom, and apply it to your long term goals, your personal growth, where you see yourself moving towards 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, right? Because Saturn is that long term. Saturn is father time. He's disciplinary. He is the one that takes care of all of us, right? Sometimes we don't like to handle the responsibilities needed or that Saturn requires of us in order to get to where we want to go. But if we do handle those responsibilities and we run a strict program when it comes to where we see ourselves going, Saturn rewards us because Saturn appreciates the effort. It appreciates the respect that you are putting into yourself and your goals and your dreams. That's where Saturn's rewards come in. So, where we illuminate the illusion, we take that energy of the wisdom of the illumination of the illusion and how we were able to pierce through the veil of the illusion. And then just a couple days later, we have that sun conjoining Saturn to illuminate the path we have to take, the steps we have to do every single day, including today, the steps we have to take in order to move towards our vision, to move towards where we see ourselves growing to as people and also in the physical realm. If you want to be an accountant, if you want to be an accountant but you don't have a college degree, how do you expect to be an accountant in 5 years if you don't start to study? If you don't start to apply yourself, if you don't start to apply to schools, if you don't take the tests you need to take in order to get into the schools? It's those little actions we do every day so that our dream 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line is possible. We can't just wake up one day and then decide to do something and just be handed it. We need to put in the work. And that's what Saturn conjunct the sun will illuminate. Okay, you've pierced through the veil. You have this awareness. You have this wisdom from piercing through the veil. So how are you going to utilize that to make changes today so you can get to where you're going to go? Not where the illusion wants you to go because you've already seen through that and you know that's not, it has nothing to do with you anymore because you've stepped out of that illusion. So now that the illusion has broken, you can now see clearly where you want to go, not where you're being told you should go. What do you have to do today to make that dream a reality? Now, with the energies of its sextile Pluto, Pluto is a planet of transformation. It's death, it's birth, it's life, it's death again, and then it's birth, and then it's life again. It's constant cyclic energy of going through the cycle of I am being reborn, I am dying again, I am being reborn, I am dying again, and all of the energy that happens in between that. And a sextile, while it's not like a huge or like a potent energy, it's a subtly harmonious energy. So Where you want to see yourself grow, that sextile with Pluto, say hi to my sweet girl, that sextile with Pluto will help you take the energy of death so you can let go of the things or the habits or the situations or the people that don't align with where you're going and allow the new energy that you need to birth into your life every single day beginning today. It will help that energy transform and cycle within you so you can move forward with that. And then the square with the quarter moon in Cancer, the first quarter moon in Cancer, and it's only going to be exactly square for like a couple hours during that day. But still, that tension is going to be necessary because it's going to show you, emotionally speaking, in terms of your value system, in terms of who you are at your core, what you actually stand for and believe in. It's going to help you bring tension to the things that you do believe in and you do stand for, and how you can bring that into alignment with the changes you need to make today in order to make your dreams come true further down the line. So you're going to be very tapped into your emotional understanding, what you actually stand for. So you're not just making changes that will end up stepping on other people to get to where you want to go. You will make changes that are aligned to what you value and who you are, who your character is as a person in the most internal space. That's what that square with the first quarter moon will be. And I think that's a brilliant energy to be moving with. And then 2 days later, on March 27th, the moon will enter into Leo at 10:10 in the morning, which there are a couple planetary like shifts that happen at very synchronistic times, which that's why I took note of that of Leo there. But at the same time, that same day, Saturn will move into 5 degrees Aries, where it will directly sextile Pluto. So where 2 days before, where the Sun conjunct Saturn, it's at 4 degrees, Saturn's finally going to move into 5 degrees, where it will have that sextile. So everything we were speaking on still applies here and will continue to apply until April 4th, when Saturn moves ahead into the 6th degree, so it won't be directly sextile anymore. But again, it's that harmonious energy of seeing the vision, seeing what you need to do today in order to align to where you want to be however long down the road, and allowing that energy of Pluto. And you know what? Pluto is not only death and transformation. Etymologically speaking, Pluto means wealth. Pluto, as a word, means wealth. Its roots mean wealth. So when we combine the idea of Saturn being the disciplinary father that wants you to take responsibility for your life and the things you do, and especially your actions, because Aries is action. When we take that energy of Saturn that says, do this today so you can be set tomorrow and kick your feet up and not have to worry about it, when it's sextiling and making this harmonious aspect to the planet of transformation, which also etymologically means wealth, this is an energy that will help you get rid of anything that is holding you back, including mindsets. Because Pluto's in Aquarius. Pluto's in Aquarius. And this is just before, this is 3 days before, 4 days before the wind moon. And when we think about Aquarius, Aquarius as a primordial being are the Aquarian winds. The winds that touch everything and see everything and know everything. So this is especially true for this transit when Saturn and Pluto are directly sextile. This is a time to reframe your mindset, to allow death to reign on the things that you do not need to carry, that are subconsciously holding you back from making the changes you need to make every day to move towards your wealth. Sometimes it's that clear. And with this moon transit, with it being in Leo, to begin our Saturn sextile Pluto energy, it's just that extra breath of life. It's stoking the proverbial fires of what we actually want to see grow and transform within ourselves and within the world around us and within our life as a whole. So I just think that's a beautiful energy to be working with. Oh, and then another one. So 2 days after that, the moon moves into Virgo. At what time? 3:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, there are so many just little synchronistic moments. So the day after the moon moves into Virgo at 3:33 p.m., we'll have Venus moving into Taurus at 12:01 a.m. So that is on March 30th or the 29th, depending on where you are in the world, because again, 12:01 a.m. on the 30th Eastern Standard Time. So we'll have our moon in an earth sign as Venus also moves into Taurus, where it is in its domicile. So I think that's a lovely energy. Then the day after that, we'll have the moon move into Libra at 10:51 a.m. So then we'll have Venus in domicile, the moon in Libra being ruled by that Venus, which is in its domicile sign. And then the day after that is April Fool's Day, when we have that full wind moon in Libra, which again stations exact at 10:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, this is going to be very beneficial especially if you're focusing on doing the work and aligning to your, like, where you want to go. This is going to be a very harmonious energy that helps you take it. It's an emphasis of what we talked about with the first quarter moon when Saturn and the sun were conjunct. What this Venus in Taurus energy being ruled by, or ruling the moon, the full moon in Libra, that's going to help us take that energy of our value system and what we find beauty in, and how we find beauty in ourselves, and how we find beauty in the world. And again, what we truly believe in, what we stand for. It's going to help us take the illumination of the moon. That's when it's the biggest and brightest in the sky. Take the illumination of the moon where it's not as direct, it's more subtle, it's more subconscious, but it's going to help us take this subconscious subtle energy of who we are and what we truly believe in and stand for, and align that to our actions. Align that to our goals. Align that to where we see ourselves moving towards with all of that Saturnian and Pluto energy. And on the same day as the full moon in Libra, the sun is also going to make a direct trine to Lilith in Sagittarius at 11 degrees, which in numerology, 11 is the number of intuition and vision. It's about big dreaming. And I love that I was just talking about the 10 and now we're talking about the 11. So there's already forward progress being made there. And just a few days before this, again, we had the moon move into Virgo at 3:33. We started Aries season with the Mercury turning around at 3:33. There's creation, there's energy, there's vision, there's intuition. There is gnosis to be experienced. So you can integrate that wisdom here. I'm just pointing this all out because, again, there's something prolific about this Aries season. And with the sun trining Lilith, again, it's a harmonious energy. It's a harmonious aspect there. And where sextile isn't as prominent of an energy, it's more subtly felt. The trines are very much felt. The trines represent like mastery in a sense, right? So if we're taking the illumination of the sun and it trines our dark moon Lilith, which represents our repressed feminine, our dark feminine, it's the rage, it's the softness, it's everything. It's the divine feminine in its fullest expression. I've talked in length about Lilith's story. I mentioned it specifically in the last video about the Pisces new moon, so go check that out if you would like to learn the story of Lilith in depth. But ultimately, it's reclamation of the divine feminine aspects that this society wants us to, like, dampen. They want us to push down those true aspects of what it means to be the divine feminine. Hello, Kali. That's the ultimate divine feminine, right? Kali Ma, love you. Love you. Destruction. The feminine is the void, which, yes, births life into creation. But the feminine is the void. But the patriarchy doesn't want the feminine to tap into the void. So that has been repressed, right? When the sun trines the dark moon into fire signs, the youngest fire sign and the oldest fire sign, if you will, that's bringing illumination to the ways that we have been repressing ourselves and allowing that dark divine feminine energy to go wild. Because when we allow that dark divine energy to go wild, we have more access to what we are actually capable of. So we can actually align to what we are actually meant to experience. And again, this is all happening on the full moon in Libra, which will be ruled by a domiciled Venus in Taurus, which helps us tap into our true value system and come into greater alignment. The sun trining Lilith at the same time the full moon is ruled by a domicile Venus. That's bringing all aspects of your femininity into one gorgeous gloop that you can just rub all over yourself and just become. That's delicious to me. That's a delicious energy. April Fool's Day. Don't fuck with anybody, any woman you come across. Don't fuck with them. Revere them. No pranks, no jokes. That's not a day of joking. That's a day of becoming. Anyway, we don't have another big aspect that's like incredibly notable until about a week later when Mars moves into Aries on April 9th. Oh, that's my best friend's birthday. Shout out Steph. April 9th, Mars moves into Aries at 3:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which again, 3 plus 3 equals 6, so that's a double 6. 6 is the number of universal love. Mars moving into its domicile on that day, on April 9th. So we'll have Mars in its domicile, we'll have Venus in its domicile, and fascinating, on the same day that Mars moves into Aries, Venus is going to be in conjunct the dark moon at 12 degrees Taurus And then the dark moon will be at 12 degrees Sagittarius. Now, when planets are in conjunct, it just basically means they can't see each other, right? So, say you're in a big circle. Everybody's talking, everybody's having a conversation, everybody's having a good time. There's one person right here and maybe another person, well, technically it's like across the way, but we're just going to say one person right here and then one person right here, even though it doesn't make sense with the aspects. They can see out and they can see everybody around them. They can turn to the person that's directly in between them and talk to them, but they can't see each other. So it's like they want to understand one another, they want to work together, but they can't see each other, which means they can't communicate well. They can't get their point across to the other person. So even if they have the same base theory, but their logic is a bit skewed, they won't be able to even get to the fact that they have the same base theory because they can't communicate that logic, right? It's the best way to explain what that means. And again, don't think of the angles there because that's not whatever. Regardless, when they're in conjunct, they can't see or really work together or understand each other. So this domiciled Venus being in conjunct the dark moon, and this is a quick transit because Venus moves quickly, but it's fascinating that this is happening just about a week after we have all of that harmonious energy with the feminine. That's going to bring about it's almost going it feels like it will bring doubt or disconnect between the darker feminine side of yourself and the more approachable or respectable in terms of society, respectable side of your feminine. They will feel like they're butting heads. And it's important that day that you do not allow that internal, like, separation between the two to cause you to doubt the true power and necessity of the dark feminine, or vice versa, the true power and necessity of Venus, of the more quote respectable feminine, the more acceptable feminine, I should say. I respect Lilith. I have more than respect for Lilith. She knows. Thanks, Mom. Love you. Anyway, so that's just something to keep in mind on the day that Mars moves into Taurus again, April 9th at 3:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The internal feminine aspects of yourself will feel disconnected. It's going to be a quick transit, but do not let doubt steer you off of the track. It feels like there's something in my eye. Jeez Louise. And then just one day after that, we will have our second quarter moon in Capricorn, 12:52 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 20 degrees Capricorn, which the moon will be ruled by Saturn during that time. And then as it moves into Aquarius as well that evening, and then we'll join up with Pluto. So where we are having this internal battle of like the divine feminine within us, the dark divine feminine and the quote light divine feminine, the next day the moon is going to shift into a Capricorn ruled energy. So it's going to help us take any doubt or uncertainty or disconnection and be strategic with it and utilize that doubt and disconnection to our advantage. Utilize that doubt and disconnection to almost get out of our heads and start to do the work. Just say, you know what, I can't figure this out here. So I'm just gonna start doing something. And then hopefully whatever I birth into creation through my doing, whatever I move towards will help me gain clarity with what this disconnect may represent. And again, by that point, Venus is already going to be out of that direct aspect. So it's already going to feel alleviated. But it's almost like this butting heads energy of the internal feminines within you, the two wolves, right? That energy of the two wolves trying to like gnaw at the other or have more power over the other is going to be alleviated through the work that you do, not only internally because it'll be a Capricorn ruled moon, which is internal, it's emotional, but also externally because Capricorn's about doing. Saturn is about doing, as we've talked about in length already. Oh, lovely. And then on April 12th, I have the beginning of my personal Saturn return exact at yeah, April 12th until 4:20, baby. Blaze it up. It'll be at 7 degrees Saturn or 7 degrees Aries, which is where my Saturn is. And I believe, yeah, right before the day before the new moon, I will have my exact Saturn direct return. Which I'm excited for. There's a lot going on that day, which we'll get to in a moment. But before we get there, something beautiful about your Saturn return. It's your Saturn return officially starts when it's within 10 degrees of your Saturn placement. Now, my Saturn's at 7 degrees, so my Saturn return technically started when it was still in Pisces. But again, that Aries energy, once it moved into Aries, it was like my boots were on the ground and I was going. You have 3 direct Saturn returns where it hits exactly where your Saturn is. The first time is when Saturn goes forward. and then when it retrogrades, and then when it goes back forward again. And then after that, once it escapes that 10-degree energy, you're out of your Saturn return. You'll still feel the energies, but you're out of the thick of it, essentially, once it passes that 10-degree energy. And what's beautiful about when Saturn was within 10 degrees of my personal Saturn placement, I was finally called to be more vocal and express more and share more readily about astrology, which I feel is my passion and part of my path and part of my destiny in this life. So already we're making strides. We're making the right strides. So happy to be here. Happy to have you guys here. But anyway, moving on. That's on the 12th. And then the 14th, we will have Mercury move into Aries to join Neptune, Saturn, Chiron, the Sun, Mars, and now Mercury. We're at 6. We're at 6. So that's going to move into Aries at 12:20, or sorry, 11:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 14th. And then, yeah, shortly after that, we'll have the moon in Aries. So this is what I was talking about. 7 planets / asteroid in Aries at the same time. Again, we will have the Sun, Neptune, Saturn, Chiron, Mercury, Mars, and then the moon on the 15th. All in Aries. All in Aries. We are moving. It's like we may have felt like we were so inundated and underwater in this Pisces energy. And then we're going to quickly feel like we're not. We're going to quickly feel like you won't even remember what it felt like to be swimming in that water, to be trying to run underwater. Because by the time we hit Aries season and by the time we hit the 15th when the moon moves into Aries, again, it's that triathlon energy. You feel like you're swimming forever, and then once you get on the bike, you're gone. And before you know it, 10 minutes has passed, you've already ridden like 10 miles. Who would have thought? Who would have known? That's the energy we're moving with here. And again, so the moon moves into Aries on the 15th. And then on the 16th, I will have my direct Saturn return. I love that so much. And everything else that's happening on the same day. Because this is not, yes, it's my direct Saturn return down to the solar arc minute. But we will also have the Sun conjoining Chiron at 26 degrees Aries. Mercury conjunct Neptune at 2 degrees Aries. And then that's going to loosely conjoin Mars at 5 degrees Aries, which will directly sextile our Pluto at 5 degrees Aquarius. And then we will have that Mars at 5 degrees Aries, loosely conjunct Saturn at 7 degrees Aries. And then the moon on the same day, well, this is just for me personally, the moon on the same day will be directly square my natal moon on my direct Saturn return. Oh my god. And then Jupiter, which is in Cancer, will be almost directly conjunct my natal moon, which also means that the moon will directly square Jupiter in the sky. It's a lot going on. So I think the biggest heavy hitter, just in terms of collectively speaking, is that Sun conjoining Chiron, because Chiron is our deepest wounds and our efforts to heal them. I've spoken a lot on Chiron conjunct Eris, which will be an exact conjunction on the new moon in Pisces. Again, go watch that video if you haven't, if you're interested. But the Sun conjunct Chiron, where Eris and Chiron were conjunct to allow the foundations to shake, allowing chaos to reign on the stories we've told ourselves surrounding the wounds and how we have built up a sense of identity based on the stories we tell ourselves surrounding our wounds. The Sun conjunct Chiron is going to take the crumblings, the dust that has settled after you allowed chaos to reign on those stories of your wounds. It's going to illuminate the dust that's settled. So we will be past like the thick of moving through the chaos of the destruction of the stories we've told ourselves about our traumas and wounds that have shaped us and kept us safe up until now, because we know we don't need to be safe from these things anymore. They were in the past. Yes, they shaped who we are. We don't need to use it as an excuse to stay small anymore. As the Sun conjoins Chiron, it's going to illuminate the dust that has settled, right? So now you can take the feather duster and sweep and clean and mop and just clean up the debris of what was left of the chaos that kind of shook up the wounds and the stories. And now you're cleaning up the area. It's like it's literally giving the energy of cleaning up a crime scene, right? Yes, there was trauma and hurt and betrayal and death. And you're not just going to get over that. But when the Sun conjoins Chiron, it's asking you, are you going to dwell on it forever? Or are you going to take this illumination and start to get to work to clean up this mess? It's up to you. Grief is a son of a bitch, you know? Sometimes grief prevents us from doing anything. And sometimes the Sun illuminating that grief is just going to make us feel more grief. Move through it how you need to, but it's a great day to bring awareness to what is left beyond the rubble that the chaos shook up. Now we bring awareness to it. We have this big pile in our home Are we just going to let that pile exist and maneuver around it, pretend it doesn't exist? Or are we going to do something about it? Are we going to clean it up so now we have our space? We have reclaimed our home. And yes, of course, we won't forget about the trauma that we moved through. We will never forget about it, but we won't need to move around it and pretend it doesn't exist. We are able to integrate it now so it can help us grow and become even more of what we are destined to be. That's the biggest energy of that day. Along with my direct Saturn return. I didn't sign up for this. That's crazy. It's crazy to me. All of those things happening on that day. On my direct Saturn return down to the minute. Didn't sign up. Well, I did sign up for this technically, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Anyway, the day after that Sun conjunct Chiron and all of those other things happening. One more time. Sun conjunct Chiron, Mercury conjunct Neptune at 2 degrees Aries, loosely conjoining Mars at 5 degrees, which is directly sextiling Pluto, loosely conjunct Saturn at 7 degrees Aries, and then the Sun conjunct Chiron, and then the Moon directly square our Jupiter in Cancer. Love that. And then one day later, on the 17th, not even a whole day later because the new moon is exact at 7:52 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on April 17th, so like 12 hours later, we will have our new moon in Aries. And then that new moon is going to conjunct the sun in Chiron at 26 degrees Aries. You know what? I'm going to go more in depth about that specific day when I make my new moon in Aries video, which you will find later in the month, or later in Aries season, I should say, because this will be posted in March. But what a day. What a day. And then just a couple hours later, the moon moves into Taurus at 11:58 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the 19th, the moon moves into Gemini at 12:18 p.m. And then shortly after, the sun moves into Taurus at 9:39 p.m. And that's your Aries season update. Like I said, new beginnings are abound, and the revelations are profound, and will continue to be. As I mentioned, on the 15th, we will have count them, 7 planets and asteroids in Aries. So, as we continue to move through this Piscean energy, where we do still have quite a few placements in Pisces, as I record this, we still have the Sun, the North Node, the Sun, the North Node, Mercury. I feel like I'm forgetting one. I don't know. The Sun, the North Node, and Mercury, at the very least. That's still 3 very prominent elements in Pisces, especially when we think about how Mercury is movement in the mind. The Sun is the personal identity. The North Node is our destiny. So it's still this energy of feeling like you're moving through, feeling like you're moving through the thick of it. It's the Queen of Pentacles. But once we get into Aries season, it's almost as if 8 of Swords reversed at the bottom of the deck. It's almost as if you may feel like, oh, and then 2 of Swords. You may feel like right now, as we're still in Pisces season and as we gear up for Aries season, that there are parts of you that are ready to get up and get moving and do and become, because we do have a lot of Aries energy already. But it's like, because our sun, our personal identity, is still in Pisces right now, because we still have, again, that energy of mental forwardness, mental stimulation, mental movement, that's still underwater. It's all still underwater. So where we feel the drive, it's like we're still trying to run in water. Once the sun moves into Aries, that's going to alleviate. Oh, and Mars, that's the other one in Pisces still. So it's not even just our mental energy. It's literally our planet of action and drive and forward movement is still underwater. So once these planets start to move into Aries, and you don't have to put in as much effort to run to get even 10 feet, trying to run underwater is hard. You won't have to put in as much effort. It'll feel like if you train with weights on your ankles, like you run with weights on your ankles to train, it'll feel like once we get into Aries season, you took the weights off and now you're 3 times as fast. And again, you're going to turn around in the middle of Aries season and be like, holy shit, I've come really far, really far. And with the Queen of Pentacles coming out, with the 8 of Swords reverse coming out, and the moon reverse was underneath of that. 8 of Swords reverse, and then the 2 of Swords, and then the moon was under the 8 of Swords reverse, and the sun was under the 2 of Swords, which is fascinating to me. And I think that's really all that wants to be stated here. Oh, and then the 10 of Wands was peeking out too, which goes into exactly what I was just saying. Queen of Pentacles is promised this energy of not only personal fulfillment and self-containment and personal growth, right? Did I say Wands? I meant Pentacles. The Queen of Pentacles is the second to last card in the tarot, and she has everything she needs physically, abundantly, materially. She is sitting on her throne. But it's not only about that physical manifestation of abundance, it's about generosity. It's about nurturing people because you don't have to worry about anything. Not anything, but you don't have to worry about security. You don't feel like you're in survival anymore. You don't feel like you have to work in order to live. But now you are living in order to do your work. And part of that work is generosity of spirit. It's giving back to the people who are still in the trenches, who do feel like they still have to work to survive, who don't have the opportunity to thrive yet. Always yet, because we are all on our journey to get there. That's the energy we're moving towards this Aries season as individuals and then collectively. Because the Queen of Pentacles does not just sit on her throne and ignore everybody else, she gives. She is generous in spirit and in tangibility. She gives what she can, and she can give a lot. So as you move out of this Pisces energy where you're feeling like you're underwater and not doing much, you're moving away. You're not only moving towards this seat of abundance and prosperity and wealth and health and brilliance and fortune and all of that, you're moving away. And this taps into the Chiron Eris conjunction as well as the Sun conjunct Chiron and the Moon conjunct Chiron we'll see at the end of Aries season. You're moving away from those mental battlements that have kept you trapped and imprisoned in your own trauma, in your own coping mechanisms for far too long. Aries season is an escape from that. And while you may feel indecisive about, it'll feel like part of you is dying, because in a sense part of you is, and part of you will want to hold on to that. And I love the symbolism. This is the star tarot, by the way, if anybody's interested. I love the symbolism in this deck of this Two of Swords, because whether it's upright or reversed, it's very clear about which side of you has the upper hand right now, right? The illumination, well, they're both under the moon, but the conscious self versus the unconscious or shadow self, right? When it's upright, it's this pleading to allow you to take both sides into account, to find the balance within yourself, not only to allow this one to rule or this one to rule, but finding the balance where both can have a compromise, where both can exist in peace and harmony within yourself. And that's kind of what I spoke on. I think this was in the new moon video I made for Pisces, which again, check that out. That's kind of what I spoke on with Lilith, with Lilith's energy, and with Venus and how they're going to feel like they're butting heads. This is the energy where it's like, I don't have to have one win over the other because they can both coexist within me. Even and especially when they feel like they're at odds, they can both coexist within me. They can both coexist within me. And it's about finding that balance and not allowing the mind to play too much of a role, but tapping into that energy within your body to find that cohesion, to find that, because they both do exist within you. And one doesn't have to rule over the other. If you're on a road trip, maybe one is in the driver's seat, the other's in the passenger seat, and then you switch sides every once in a while. But they can live in cohesion. There doesn't have to be indecision here of your necessary steps or your progress or anything, or who needs to rule out in the end, because they both exist within you and they're both important and they both have very vital roles to play in getting you to where you're meant to be. Ten of Wands is just completion. You're moving away from carrying the burden of the weight of your traumas or other people's issues that you took on, because Pisces is not only the collective unconscious, it's also empathy. And it's also the ways that we carry other people's burdens for them. You're releasing that. You're letting go of that. And because of that, with the moon reversed, oh, and the Five of Wands reversed was underneath of this. The moon reverse is bringing illumination to things that you may have kept hidden from yourself for a very long time. My nose is so itchy. Oh my God. The moon reverse brings illumination to what you have kept hidden for a very long time, and I think that has to do with the Eight of Swords. Once you tap into the trust of allowing the balance to exist within you, so it's not just your coping mechanisms and traumatic stories guiding your individuality or shaping who you are as a person and what you do in this world, you find that balance, and because of that, you are allowing what has been kept hidden or what has been a mystery to you to be revealed. To be revealed. And the Six of Cups was underneath the sun. So not only are you bringing illumination to what has been hidden from you, but it's going to help you find greater fulfillment and move beyond the barriers of the walls you built yourself internally to keep yourself safe. You're moving beyond the barriers because you recognize the infinity that is not only your internal substance, but your external potentiality. And with the Six of Cups underneath the sun, that's just saying that you are now able to look at your wounds and your stories and the things you've told yourself about how you need to be, who you need to be, and how the traumas that shaped you shape who you are as a person now. And you're taking all of that, and rather than using those traumas and stories to stay safe and confined, You are allowing, you're seeing it now in a different lens where you don't see it as something that hurt you or hindered you or kept you in this compact, right? Like this trash compactor, very minimized version of yourself. You're now able to see those stories and recognize how every single moment brought you to this illumination, brought you to this clarity of understanding, brought you to this balance. And it's not something that holds you back anymore because you see it. You don't see it as a hindrance. You see it as maybe not a necessary step towards your becoming, but you see it as something that has brought you to the awareness of your becoming, rather than something that has kept you stuck and traumatized. Aries season is bringing the illumination. Aries season is getting you out of the mental prisons you kept yourself in for a very long time. What a gift. What a gift. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I will be doing a video for the Libra full moon again on April Fool's Day. Yeehaw, right? Yeehaw. I'll be doing a video for the Libra full moon and then again for the Aries new moon. So keep up, keep in touch. Hags. That's all I got for you for this one. It's a long one, but thanks for staying here if you did. Love you guys, appreciate you guys, and happy Aries season. See you next time. Bye.